is a panel, and we are going to talk about digital identity. We are going to talk about gaming and investing in entertainment. And well, I'm Jose Saldarriaga, partner at Tejaso. I'm co-leading the innovative business and venture capital area in the firm, and I'm happy to be here with Beatrice Aliprendi.
Perfect.
And Kai Felip. Beatrice, you're principal at European multi-stage venture capital Lakestar, investing in their games and media practice. Hello, Beatrice.
Nice to see you. This is also the coolest setup ever.
Thank you. And Kai, you're a CEO and co-founder at Union Avatars. You're helping users and companies enter in 3D virtual worlds through Avatar. Hello, Kai.
Correct. Thank you. Thank you for the conference.
Okay. Please, guys, just a short introduction of yourself. So, Beatrice, what do you do? Beatrice, what do you do, particularly at Lakestars, and what Lakestars does as a VC?
Sure. Lakestar is a pan-European venture capital fund. We invest pretty much from seed to growth, so pretty agnostic on the stage, and we focus on Europe. We cover a lot of ground because we're 60 people and we cover all sorts of sectors from AI, deep tech, healthcare and fintech. But I specifically cover games and media, which includes gaming studios, gaming infrastructure, and the whole entertainment industry. So music, video, audio, text, and we take the mediums of communications and we try to understand what happens in those industries. I've been in VC for about 6 years now. And prior to that, I was in investment banking doing technology M&A, originally Italian, but I'm located in London, been living there for like about 10 years.
Kai, just a brief introduction.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, basically what we do in Union Avatars is we have an avatar engine to create realistic avatars from single 2D selfie pictures to 3D avatars that can be used in different platforms. We started focusing on the photorealistic avatars, but now we are offering different styles. So you can choose the style of your avatar to be adapted to the look and feel of the platform that you want to join. Just like in real life, you dress in a different way when you go to the beach or to the office. We think that in the virtual world, you should be able to project your identity based on the platform that you want to join.
Okay, thank you. Guys, I think that avatars are emerging as virtual identities for like an extension of ourselves in a virtual reality. What do you think about all this virtual identity?
Well, from our point of view, the identity, even in the actual internet, in Web 2, is the pillar or the base where everything is built on top of it. So we see this very specific part of the identity as the base for the internet that is coming. At the end of the day, the avatar is just the visual representation of your identity in this sort of 3D platforms on this spatial internet. So we see it like a way of projecting yourself on the different interactions that you have online.
Quite interesting because maybe I didn't mention it before, we're quite thesis driven, so we take a topic from a macro view and we have an opinion on it, and then we try and find companies that appeal to our view. And on virtual identities, actually we had a thesis that we formed about a year ago about fractional identities, and it's a very generational shift as well. So I'm a millennial and my identity in between various mediums is pretty similar. So I'm a person in real life, and then I'm on my Instagram, and it's maybe a more polished version, but like still really me. Whereas Gen Z have a completely different approach, and they are one person in real life, then they have an Insta, they have a Finsta, they have a Snap, and they're like maybe the more authentic version of themselves. Then they're on Be Real, and that's even more authentic, and then maybe their avatar playing games. And maybe they impersonate like a goblin if they play like Dungeons and Dragons. And so they're way more comfortable with having different representations on themselves, which is actually why avatars are a great thing, because they can essentially express a different side of their persona. And there's a longer conversation about living in virtual realities versus real world, but I think it's like super fascinating topic.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, just to do a compliment, I think right now, as you say, I'm a millennial too. I still think I have a different profile on LinkedIn or Instagram, for example. But I think right now there is certain importance on the way you project this identity or the avatar you have based on the platform, as we are saying. But I think maybe in the future the new generations see it in a different way. No, for me it would be kind of violent to go on a meeting and do a business between a vampire and a dragon, for example. But maybe in the future that's not that much relevant. No, I think new generations have a different approach on the avatars and how they feel related to the avatar. So it's not only about the visual representation that look like them, but totally different way. If they maybe it's a man with a woman avatar, or what we can call a woman avatar, but then they don't really care about the form that this avatar is getting in the future. No, as far as they identify, because they have different customization on this avatar that allows them to feel more related to this. But maybe it's a goblin, as you say, no, but they feel more related than a realistic avatar. So I think it's something that will change with the new generations.
I do have a LinkedIn profile. I do have an Instagram profile, and my behavior is not the same in Instagram than in LinkedIn. So, is it the same with avatars?
I think, yeah, it's just another. I interpret it as just another facet of your virtual identity, or like your identity in general. So it's just adding another layer on it, and then maybe you will have maybe like a slightly different opinion from a technical perspective, because the identity layer has to stay the same, but the visual representation might be different.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the same identity, I think that you, as the owner of your own data, you should be able to have access to all your data, but then you should be able to create different profiles or different credentials based on the different platforms. That doesn't mean that it have to be 3D, it can be 2D too, or just like traditional internet, but you should be able to create different profiles based on the relationship that you want to generate with this profile. Maybe you can have a profile to interact with banks, a profile to interact with video games, or 5 different profiles to interact with video games. When I say that the identity should be the same, it's not from the output. Somebody from the output should not be able to see that all these identities are connected on the same one. But you, as the owner, you should have a private key that allows you to control all of them. That's my point of view.
Also, if you're working, you should have professional avatar. If you want to.
For now, the feedback that we're getting is that. But as I say, like for me, right now it doesn't make sense to go with a big gun to a business meeting, but maybe in the future it change a little bit, or there might be some specific meeting where you need it, no? But in general,
with our maybe look at our shirts, and now we're wearing just our sneakers. It's exactly just the change of mind. Good. Well, Beatrice, well, in Ehaso we are really invested in entertainment and digital businesses. And I'm really interested, I'm curious on your opinion of why venture capital is investing in entertainment, in technology, and all that mix of all that kind. Yeah.
No, for sure. And also it's a question that I get quite often, like why would a VC take content risk when it comes to like a game? And the answer is actually pretty easy, and I will say like the cynical VC answer and then like the personal perspective. The cynical side is that it's a 200 billion market. Gaming is bigger than music and movies combined, and companies in the gaming space are super profitable, as in they mainly raise like a seed and a Series A, and then if the game is a hit, they basically never raise again. They're super profitable, and they take those proceeds and then build a second game and a third game. And then third point is that it's a very highly acquisitive market. So we actually ran some stats. They're a little bit out of date because they're end of last year, but they have been more than 100 exits over 50 million in the past just 3 years. And so from a VC perspective, super attractive. from a personal perspective, also super fascinating because you're blending some kind of art with science and data, and also it's super fun, and I get to play games.
Well, a video game is not just one software; it's something complex. So you can find there like music, you can find there all that kind of, let's say, art, and with technology. So it should be, well, a challenge to analyze those projects and to decide to invest in them.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe like another point on the gaming infrastructure side, usually we tend to say, or we tend to discount a little bit gaming, meaning, oh, it's just a game, it's not important. But actually, first of all, people socialize on games, and many gamers say, like, I keep in touch with my long distance friends because we just like play League of Legends together in the evening. And then the gaming infrastructure is hugely important. Like, let's not forget that Unreal Engine is used by like the US Defense for simulations. And so it's incredibly accurate and precise technology. And there's other parts of software, for example, game moderation or audio moderation, that are detecting harassment and toxicity on audio chats. They're also potentially are used in other audio forms, like Zoom meetings or any type of audio interaction. And so infrastructure for games usually is also applicable to a whole other bunch of industries. So it's much more important than we think, I think.
Can you explain your experience or Lakestar's experience on investing in, let's say, music and...
Yeah, so because we try and be very proactive on, what are the catalysts that are going to change certain industries. I don't take credit for it because it was way before my time, but streaming technology means that we actually invested in Spotify very early on. And that was a clear catalyst. Okay, the music industry is going to change. Spotify is coming up. Streaming technology, bam. There might be others like generative AI when it comes to images, videos, gaming. So you could potentially now you're on Roblox and you have to code in order to produce a game. But maybe in the future you just type in a prompt and say, like, can you give me a game where I have to kill a goblin with like a little sword, and the 3D assets are going to pop up. So you don't really know what catalysts are going to create, but it's very interesting to then like try and find companies proactively that are addressing these issues. Not issues, these topics, not necessarily issues.
As we already said, we all play roles in our real life. Our behavior is different. It would depend on the situation. And do we humans want to be in virtual worlds playing roles? Do we want to be ourselves? Do we want to be anonymous? Kai, what do you think?
I think it really depends on each person. No, for me, well, one of the most interesting points, as you said before, is the social part that I think sometimes we tend to forget. Me, for example, when I play games with my friends, a lot of times I'm just spending time talking with them on the chat before joining the actual match, and it's a way of connecting. No, I don't play PlayStation. I'm more on PC gaming, but I have a lot of friends who they just connect the PlayStation to connect with other friends from other parts of the world and just spend time there. So I think the social aspect is really important. And for me, it really depends. Like I always say the same, but I was a heavy user on internet-related chat. It was IRC. A lot of people was moving around, and for me, the interesting part there was that most of us were anonymous, but we were sharing the same interest. So we get to have really good connections with people, and I really opened my real me. In a way that maybe I was not doing on real life with my friends, because I was constrained by certain social norm from my school or what they would think about me if I was that much geek or these sort of things. While online I was feeling super safe. At any point I could disconnect, I could disappear, I had a nickname, and then some of my best friendships were built on that time. Later on I got to know them in person, I know their real names, but maybe I spent 5 or 6 years talking to them without knowing the real name of the person, but building real connections. Me myself, I'm a really supporter of privacy. I think it's something super important. I understand that some people tend to think that if we can be behind a nickname, there is more probability of harassment or these sort of things. I don't think. I think we have really a lot of work to do as a society, and it's not about disclaiming or doxing ourselves and telling our real names. I think it's two different paths. You can be anonymous or semi-anonymous without having to have bad behavior. No? So for me, there is a space for everything. Last year we were working with a project where there were some journalists who needed to have an identity that was recurrent on the time, but it was not related to their real identity because otherwise they could be in danger. So for them it was interesting to be anonymous. In another special occasion, you might need to be able to show who you are and who you are on the real life. So even with the type of avatars, I found people who prefer realistic avatars, people who prefer cartoon avatars, people who prefer animal avatars, or I don't know, having an apple with legs and they represent themselves. So I think it really depending on the person and the situation. And what we should allow is to have a space for everybody. For me, it doesn't make sense to have 10,000 of different virtual platforms and then only one way to interact with all of them. We should be able to have this freedom of expression on where we want to interact and how we want to interact.
I agree, and it really depends. And actually, on one point that you said that you wanted to keep a pseudonym, probably like most gamers are keeping a pseudonym on because they will think, oh, if maybe I have, as you said, like certain cultural norm. Maybe they're like a CFO of a multi-billion-dollar company, but they really like to play StarCraft in the evening, and then they obviously don't want them to link them to like a CFO. And actually, they should make a study on how many people got married on World of Warcraft. Because I heard so many people saying like, oh, I met my wife and I met my husband playing games. So I heard that so many times.
It's building real connections by virtual relationships.
And it's not really a new thing. Like World of Warcraft is a 15-year-old game, maybe even more. And so it's always happened. It's just more frequent now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just to do a point on what you say now, sometimes we tend to say real or virtual, but for me the virtual is real too. You are building real relations. It's not that on the day-by-day world you have real relations and my virtual relations are not real relations. They are as much real as the ones that I have on my outside gaming world. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Jose, I'm going to just say one little thing. There are certain issues associated with it for sure, because if you have, as you said, if you have a pseudonym and you're trolling people and harassing and a lot of level of toxicity, that is a concrete problem. And actually, we actually ran some stats because of one of our investment, which does toxicity moderation on audio chats, that something like 40% of gamers in, I would say, like more shooter games, so like violent games, have been reporting or they've been harassed verbally, and obviously it tends to be women that, by the way, have a male pseudonym sometimes because they don't want to be obviously harassed. So that is a concrete issue that technology should change.
That's a real problem, and in esports, it's a real problem, and it's not usual that women, professional women esports team, and one of the reasons might be that all that kind of stuff is happening, and it's happening, and you cannot be professional if you have this kind of environment in not in professional gaming, but yes in amateur gaming. So no one wants to go to be professional in this environment. Yeah, completely agree. And I think that this is an open panel, so you all can ask whatever you want. I don't know if you have any questions. Yeah, please.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. No, No, it's just a comment so that you know. I'm a professor and I just did a research on the gamer citizen and the way that gamers play out citizenship. And there's a scholar called Kirk Squire who's seen that the gamer citizen is more capable of public participation and of shifting context from the game to the real world, because they have to interact with people from all ages, people from all races. They have to have strategies. They have to know how to. So digital citizens, so quote unquote, don't have the capacities. This is the research paper we finished at the Universidad de Navarra. That gamers are better citizens, and so what's happening is that the real world is coming into the game and the game is pouring out to the real world. For example, the Black Lives Matter issue, right, was inside Fortnite. Yeah. And so was the war in Ukraine inside Fortnite. And it also spills out onto the real world, the Fortnite conferences, etc. But it's the changes that are occurring with the gaming capacity are also, very impressive. And, in the corporate world, GameLearn, for example, a Spanish company, is teaching teaching skills through gaming again. So I'm just saying we shouldn't undermine, the narratives. And on this discussion of avatars, I think that societies in large play a huge role as to how you're going to need the avatars and how you're going to use them, because more gregarious societies that have more structural, community formed, and usually it's more Latin or Iberoamericano or even African countries, etc. The avatar is fun, but you don't need it to complete yourself. Whereas in countries where you have more loneliness, perhaps more, it's obvious, less human networking, organic networks, have a different, they're prone to different things in this. And I think that one thing that we should aim for, those of us who study this or work in this business, is that the avatar does not destruct the construction of one identity. Even if you have many profiles, it's important that you know that you have one identity. I mean, in the sense that you can have different identities, as you said, for the bank or for whatever. I'll be brief. But it's important to know yourself as a complete person, because if not, the avatar fragments who you are, and that can be confusing at all levels.
Yeah. In relation to the first part of what you were mentioning, I think it's super interesting. I always use the example from Fortnite, in the sense that I never played Fortnite in my life. I'm not a PlayStation player, but I know every dance from Fortnite, no? And I think almost everybody knows some dance from Fortnite. And it's interesting because it's a phenomenon that is like, it reaches to people who don't even play the game, and it reaches to different people not based on the location. So you have people in one side of the world and the other side playing exactly the same, doing exactly the same dances. If we take this to a next level, and there are certain, let's say, non-written rules within this game, but I think, I don't know, if one day people in Fortnite decide not to buy more white cars, I think for some days we would feel in the market that people is buying less white cars. It's maybe a stupid example, but I think that the strength and the reach that these games have on our daily life is much more than what we really know. In relation to the avatar and the identity, I'm not that sure. I agree with what Beatrice was saying before, that I think the younger generations have a more fragmented identity, and then this fragmented identity is what ends up creating your identity. So on that, I'm not that much.
I want to read the research, by the way, if you can send it to us.
Good. Any other question? Okay. Just two questions, very rapid questions, okay? Beatriz, Kai, as human beings, are we prepared for being in the metaverse today? Beatrice? Yes or no?
Technology speaking, no. Psychologically speaking, yes, we've been living online lives for a long time.
And would we be prepared in 2030?
Probably, yeah. From a tech first, like rendering and
Yeah.
broadband and fiber, stuff like that. Compression technology, maybe, probably.
Okay. Kai?
Yes, same thing. I think like psychologically we are already living in some sort of metaverse. It depends on the concept that you have from metaverse, but for me it's anything like cyberspace, so we are already living on that virtual world. Technologically, yeah, I think in 5-10 years we will be in a really interesting point, especially after seeing Apple Vision and all these things. I think all this will accelerate much more the implementation on the mainstream, and we will not need to be evangelists that much because the technology is already reaching there step by step.
There.
Again?
See you there. 2030. Thank you very much.